Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley. And today we got large school predictions for week 2. If anybody missed it, this past week I went 29-13, which is solid. I always try to get at least 30, so I'm one under my goal. So I'm hoping this week ends up being better. Let's go ahead with Class 4 scores from this past week. Osage, a big win on the road. They actually dropped down to Class 3, so they got an easier path through the playoffs. They win that one 28-20. Carl Junction, a comeback there, down 21-14 in the third quarter, I believe, and they come storming back and win this one 35-21. Kearney, a big 36-8 win against Fort Osage. That was actually my Class 4 game of the week, and it was not as close as I expected it to be. Macon with a big upset, 16-7 over Kirksville. Really surprised by that one. Monette, they throw 62 passes in this game, but it's not enough. They lose by a lot. Was that 29 points? 63-34 is the final. And Pleasant Hill loses at home, 41-24. Savannah, they are looking good. Kaylor Schrick, 221 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns for the Savages. The Class 4 rankings this week, number 1 is Kearney. Number 2 will be Luther North. Number 3 is Nevada. Number 4, I've got Savannah. Number 5, Festus. Number 6, Orchard Farm. Number 7, Odessa. Number 8, Hannibal. Number 9, Warrenton. And number 10 is Smithville. All 6 of these games that we're talking about for Class 4 this week are Friday night games at 7 o'clock. Nothing crazy going on here. Let's start off with Hillsboro and SLU. Got to go with SLU here. They're 2-0 since 2015 against Hillsboro, so they don't play very often. They won 22-3 against St. Ignatius from Chicago this past week. The year before, I believe they lost 56-21. So they're showing a lot of improvement. Hillsboro, they lost their QB. They're still going to be solid this year. Borderline top 10. I don't quite think they'll ever hit the top 10, but they'll be in that range. You know, the 15-20 range, I'd say, is where they're going to sit this year. So I will go with SLU in this one on the road. Logan Rogersville versus Ava. Logan Rogersville lost on the road in 2024 against Ava, but they're showing improvement. Ava did win 34-22, I want to say was the score against Buffalo, which is not really a team that you want to be playing that close with. So I think Logan Rogersville has improved, and they've got the home field advantage in this one, so I'll go with the Wildcats. Monette versus Stratford. I'm having a tough one with this one. Neither team looks amazing this year. Last year, Stratford won 69-14, but they just lost 48-0 in this past week. So neither defense is good because, like we showed earlier, Monette lost 63-34. So this one, I don't know how this one's going to go. I'm just going to go with the home field advantage here, I guess. They did bring in, Monette brought in a 3-star transfer running back from Texas. Don't ask me how he got up here. But he only had like 5 carries in that first game because they threw the ball 60 times, like I said. So maybe if they give the ball to him, you can see some wins on the board for the Cubs. We'll see. We'll see how the season goes for them. Pacific versus Orchard Farm. Pacific 0-1 lost by 7 points to St. Francis, but they've got the schedule to where they could potentially go 7-2 this year as a ceiling. I think it starts in week 3, though. They lose to Orchard Farm here, in my opinion. Orchard Farm won 28-21 last season, which is funny because that was Pacific's last week's score. And I think this Orchard Farm team also has a high ceiling. I think it's higher than Pacific. So give me the Eagles here. Pleasant Hill versus Maryville. These two teams both lost pretty bad in week 1. I will go with Maryville here. They're 1-1 against Pleasant Hill since 2022. Last season they won 35-0. So I think that's really where my pick comes from. Both of them regressed a little bit, but I think that Maryville regressed less than Pleasant Hill did. Savannah versus East Buchanan is your Class 4 game of the week. It was a big 41-24 win over Pleasant Hill this past week for Savannah. They're 2-1 against East Buchanan since 2020, but 2022. All 3 of those games were close. These two teams play each other every year. Now you do see the Savannah Savages with their home opener. That could be pretty big for them. We'll see how that one goes. Class 5 from this past week, Eureka, a big 34-22 win over Francis Howe. For Zumwalt West and Kirkwood have a weird matchup on Thursday night. Both teams just played so sloppy. I watched that one after halftime on my computer. I didn't want to make the 2-hour drive out there. So I don't know how to gauge either of those teams, but I think Kirkwood should be fine. Zumwalt West, they do move up to 6, so that's definitely going to hurt them, but they should be okay as well. But overall, just a really weird game. Speaking of weird games, Helias, they move up to Class 6, and they honestly have a struggle bus. 32 rushing yards on 31 rushing attempts against Hannibal. That is not set up for success this season. They really need to figure that out. MICDS, their first Friday night lights game, which sounds like a surprise because they've been in for 106 years, but they just never had lights installed at their stadium. They finally did it, and they lose, which kind of sucks for them, but it is what it is. Live for Life's Javion Scott, 114 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown in that one. Republic and Nixa was our Class 5 game of the week, and Nixa gets a really convincing win, 49-21 in that one. And St. Pius X of Kansas City loses by 30 to Rockhurst. I picked St. Pius in this one. I didn't know how Rockhurst was going to look this year. Boy, was I wrong. They've got a lot of young talent, the Hawklets do. Speaking of that, Cash Lewandowski, I think he's a freshman or a sophomore, 146 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and a sack on the other side of the ball. What a game for him. Let's talk about the rankings for Class 5. Number 1, obviously, is still Platte County. Coming off of a loss, Cardinal Ritter sits at 2. Rockhurst is at 3. They really gained my respect from that opening game. Number 4 will be Kirkwood. Number 5, Fort Zumwalt North. Number 6 is Republic. 7 will be Carthage. 8 is Webb City. Eureka at 9. And Hazelwood East will have the 10 spot. Camdenton versus Branson. I will go with Branson in this one. They have a really easy schedule, if we're going to be honest. And this is one of the games. I'm sorry to be disrespectful to Camdenton. They're just not really a tough team this year. It was a 35-14 win for Branson this past year at home. Now they're on the road, and I kind of expect a little bit of the same there. Fox versus Seckman. Give me the road team here. They're 4-7 against Fox since 2015, but that includes a 4-game win streak that they sit on right now, including a 34-7 win this past season. They did lose to Parkway West week 1. We'll see how they bounce back from that. I think it starts here. Lebanon versus Joplin. Give me another road team. This is my 3rd road team on the Class 5 scoreboard that I'll be taking. I think that the Eagles should take care of this one pretty easily. Last week, they won 31-7 in the opener against Kickapoo, and they're 3-1 against Lebanon since 2015. So give me the Joplin Eagles. Platte County versus Grain Valley. Grain Valley had a really good win this past week against Raytown. I don't know how to gauge either of those teams. Honestly, they both should be pretty solid, but we know what Platte County is. They're the number 1 team in Class 5. They won the championship last year. They won the game by almost 30 last year, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So I don't know if the gap's going to be that crazy, but they should still win by 20+ in this one. Rockhurst versus Ray-Pec is our Class 5 game of the week. Rockhurst did drop down to 5. They were at 6 last year. They're 6-4 against Ray-Pec since 2015. And Ray-Pec played Lee Summit North really tough this past week. I think they lost by 8 on the road. And Lee Summit North, spoiler, is our number 6 in Class 6. So I'm really excited for this Panthers team to see if they've really turned it around. They do have a really tough schedule, so we'll see how this one goes. Rockwood Summit versus Lindbergh is where we'll end off the Class 5 scoreboard. I'll go with Summit here. They're 3-1 against Lindbergh since 2020. And the Flyers lost 34-14 this past week against Oakville. On the other side, Rockwood Summit with a big win against Moline from Illinois, I believe. So that's a big win for them. I think they continue to roll. Class 6 from this past week, I got stats for almost every one of those games. Max Preps is interesting. Not every coach wants to use it, but I noticed there's a trend here. Class 6 guys like to use it. So I want to shout out all those coaches that are doing it. It really helps to bring some more immersion to this. So I like being able to shout out players, and most coaches don't actually put in stats, so I can do that. So this is a cry. Please put in stats so I can give these guys some shout outs. Blue Springs South, they beat Liberty North 49-28. Wow, I did not expect it to be that far apart. Blue Springs South safety Parker Hunt committed to Northwest Missouri State. 12 tackles, a TFL, and a sack in that one. Jackson, they get it done in the pit. Almost everybody was on Cardinal Ritter, and I actually picked Jackson in that one. So I'm pretty excited, pretty pumped about that pick there. They win it by 3 points. That's a really good win for the Indians. Joplin Eagles, they win 31-7, as I previously mentioned in their pick against Lebanon this week. Travian McCadney, 205 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. This one ends up being close. Lee Summit North wins it by 11 points. I think I said 8 earlier. Sorry about that. Caleb Green, 13 tackles and half a sack for the Lee Summit North Broncos. Liberty, a big win against Lee Summit. We got Lee Summit ranked and we got Liberty ranked. It seems like both quarterbacks honestly struggled in this one, and it was the run game that really separated it for Liberty. Colt Nolan, 140 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in that one. And Rockbridge, they lose at home to Park Hill 33-13. This past season, it was a 3 overtime game at Park Hill. Rockbridge did lose a lot of key seniors. I thought they were still going to be really good this year. We'll see how it goes. They've got a prove-it game against Smith Cotton this week, which sounds really weird to say because normally Smith Cotton isn't good. But they upset Warrensburg, so we'll see. Maybe the Tigers got something this year. So Rockbridge versus Smith Cotton's got some interesting motives to it this year. Here's the Class 6 scoreboard for this week. Let's go through the rankings. Number 1 is Nixa. Number 2, CBC. Number 3, Blue Springs South. Number 4, Liberty. Number 5, Jackson. Number 6, Lee Summit North. Number 7, Park Hill. Number 8, Lee Summit. Number 9, DeSmet. And number 10 is Lafayette Wildwood. CBC versus Cardinal Ritter. This is maybe the first time they've played, if the Misha records are correct. They at least have not played in the 10s or the 20s. I will go with the Cadets here. They won 63-20 last week, and Ritter did lose at Jackson. The Lions have a young team, so we'll see how it goes for them this year. DeSmet versus MICDS. Both these two teams coming off of a loss. I do think DeSmet should bounce back, though. The 2024 champs, we'll see if they've still got it. Francis Howell versus Fort Zumwalt North. I will go with Fort Zumwalt North here. They're 4-4 against each other since 2016, but I've got Zumwalt North ranked, and Howell did lose this past week, so I'm interested to see how the season goes for them. Those are all games. CBC at 6, DeSmet at 6, and Howell at 6:30 on Friday night. Blue Springs versus Lee Summit. This is basically for a ranking in Class 6. Lee Summit is at 8. I've got Blue Springs technically at 11 right now, so we'll see them flip-flop depending on how this goes if Blue Springs gets it done. They are my pick here. They're 5-3 against Lee Summit since 2015, and Lee Summit's coming off a loss to Liberty. Blue Springs just beat Lee Summit West 31-6, so I'm excited to see how this one goes. The Class 6 game of the week is Liberty North versus Liberty. Liberty is 6-8 against North since 2016, but they're on a 2-game win streak against them. Nixa versus Webb City is where we'll end this video off. Nixa, they're the number 1 team in the whole entire state. They beat Republic this past week. They are 4-6 against Webb City since 15, but it's a 4-game win streak, so I think the Eagles continue that. This week, the Missouri Sports Talk game of the week is Tipton versus Fairgrove. My Class 1 number 2 hosts my Class 2 number 2. It's going to be exciting. The Battle of the Birds. Let's see how this one goes. That's all we got for today. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. See you next time.